setbacks in your work, is there any sort of stress relief that you think of in your free time? When you get like bad data or something, or just have a really bad day with experiments?
Let's see. No, actually, I don't have any I haven't had any major setbacks. I don't know, a major setback would be like somebody came in and stole every piece of equipment. Of course there are setbacks, things don't work. But, that's, I don't find it problematic.
Yeah, I've had setbacks. 3 years into grad school and realized I have to scrap my entire project and start afresh. In the sense, retrospectively, that's like a great thing. But at that moment, you're like, what is like, you're like that point. No, that's actually good that I actually started at that point. You should know when to stop an experiment. When things are not going right. There's always that one additional thing you can probably do, but you should know when to say, okay, this is it. Within the time frame that you've set, okay, this is too much, you're just going out of it, and move on to something. Especially as a grad student, I mean, you're here for like, I'm in my 6th year now, so you're here for like a really long time, and you want to make sure that you have something to show for that. There's always going to be that thing. So when you have a setback, the thing is to think logically. It's very difficult, but it's to think logically. You have to take a step back, see what is the most obvious thing to do. It can be like, there can be like really this one very silly thing you've done in your previous experiment, or it can be like your complete experimental design is flawed, and you need to reassess the whole situation. Getting to that level will take some time. It's just with practice that you see that. It's really frustrating. So you just take like a couple of days off. You don't do anything. You're like, you just want to. You'll realize that's there, and you just don't want to do anything, and you just sit down. You think about what you want to do, prioritize your work again, and start fresh. I don't know. You just get back into the ring or something. But yeah.
It's also important. I mean, and this gets to be easier as there are more people around you. Is that there are multiple projects going on. And so if one I should say, when you started talking, it reminded me. I mean, I forget, but about 50% of the things I do don't work. But this significant investment in time. So maybe the idea was bad. Maybe we just, it's too costly to actually complete it, or maybe the noise in the system was just, you just couldn't deal with it. There was no way to take care of it. So about 50% failed, but there's always something else going on. And so, if it's the one thing you're doing, then
I guess when you're a grad student, it's different from when you're a PhD. I guess as a grad student, you will have a couple of projects that you're working on, and you think that's like 3 chapters of your thesis, and then you may find like one day, it's not good. But the important thing is, I learned a lot in the 3 years. It's not like it's completely down the drain. I can't use the results, but there's a lot of things I learned that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. It's like each day when you do something, there's always things you learn, and learning is the fundamental thing that actually drives you in PhD. You should be really curious. It's like that. You have this whole thing in front of you, and you're like, you're just looking at a small part of it. Every day you want to expand your vision of what you see. Actually, I know that's poetic.
When you are looking to hire an undergrad to work in your lab, or a new grad student, somebody first year want to rotate in your lab, what specific experiences or previous research or interests do you look for?
Well, I want someone who knows something about what I do. I get so many people just send me things, looking for some research. And at that point, I honestly just delete the email. Unless they say, I'm really interested in this. And then I'll look. And I have a pretty low bar for letting people in, if they, you know, if they're enthusiastic and they're getting good grades, then I've actually learned this, that if they're not getting good grades, it's usually a bad sign. So it sounds, maybe that sounds obvious, but I always thought grades, well, you know, grades, you know, you have to jump through a bunch of hoops, you know, to get a good grade, you know, and it doesn't really reflect what a person can do. But somehow grades actually turn out to be a pretty good indicator, at least for people in the lab, even though there's no lab skill involved in that. I mean, for specific skills for my lab, I like to see people who know how to computer program, you know, how to run a computer program, and have taken some physics courses. There are more things I would like, but they're almost never true, so I won't tell you about them.
I've had like 3 undergrads work with me, so what I would like is like they really like what you do. You know, I think that's the most important thing. You know, it should be like, you know, when you get up in the morning, you should be happy to come to work. You know, that is the key thing. You know, I feel like any skill you can learn, provided you have the basic math skill. It's not like, you know, you should be afraid of some stuff or anything, but you should be happy to learn. You know, okay, maybe yeah. I had really poor grades, so I don't even want to deal with that. So it depends actually. So like if it's a morning course, I had really bad grades. If it's an afternoon course, I had really good grades. So it was completely schizophrenic. But yeah. So and it's so there was this there's this really great undergrad in our lab. He was this amazingly meticulous fellow. Whatever he did turned into gold kind of thing, you know. So he did a lot of things. He designed a lab website. He used to be the best illustrator and everything. At the end of it, he realized that even though he was really good in science, he didn't want to do science. You know, he wanted to go to arts. But then the lab sort of like, you know, gave him that opportunity to do illustrations and everything. So at the end of it, you should do what you like doing. That is the most important thing. Don't do it because you want to get into med school or grad school or anything. It should be like, what does that you feel interested in doing? You know, because if you're not interested in doing, you'll not have the happiness that comes.
Okay, I guess I'm not sure how to word this question. But one of my other science classes, they've been talking a lot about like ethical issues. So like, what kind of, they talk about how like it's such a big role. Have you guys experienced that like on a day-to-day basis, or not so much, or what are some big issues that come up?
I've never come across any issues. They're actually a bit rare in physics than they are in other fields. I'm not saying that to make it sound like physics is everyone's really virtuous, but it's much more difficult to get away with, I think, doing anything strange in physics. I mean, you know, if it's a crystal that's grown and you've done something with it, people can do it. You know, people will do it and they'll find you. You know, this. So, you know, it's never been